G'day everybody, my name is Lowell and welcome to the channel. So we have a reaction video for us today. This is going to be 20 insane Atlanta facts even locals don't know. Now, as we do these videos, we always find out that, yeah, the locals do know this and videos don't know anything. So let me know what they get wrong. So let's jump in and let's have a look at this one.
Did you know that Atlanta sits higher above sea level than any other major city east of the Mississippi River, giving it a climate so mild it defies everything you expect from the Deep South?
I'm not from America, and I'm pretty sure Atlanta gets bloody hot in the summer. Like in sweltering, kind of like Queensland weather. A lot of humidity. Let me know. I'm pretty sure that's right.
That beneath its streets lies a buried city that was literally swallowed whole by history?
What?
And that the single most consumed beverage on the planet was invented here by accident in a small pharmacy on a quiet afternoon in 1886? Atlanta is not just a city.
I didn't think Coca-Cola was founded in, I thought it was Columbus. Is it Columbus? I don't know. I didn't think it was Atlanta. Let me know in the comment section.
On a quiet afternoon in 1886?
Is it Atlanta?
Atlanta is not just a city.
Okay.
It is a collision of history, nature, ambition, and surprise, so concentrated into one place that it stops feeling like a destination and starts feeling like a force of nature. So buckle up, because today we are diving into 20 of the most incredible facts about why Atlanta deserves to be at the very top of your travel list.
Okay.
Fact 20. Atlanta sits on top of a mountain, and almost no one realizes it. The city rests at an elevation of approximately 1,050 feet above sea level,
Wow.
making it the highest major city in the entire eastern United States. That elevation is not just a geographical curiosity, it actively shapes the city's personality.
There's a lot of trees in Atlanta. I know when we did a Georgia video, it did mention that there's a lot of trees. I like that fact. I love trees.
While coastal cities like Miami bake and sweat through brutally humid summers, Atlanta sits high enough above the coastal plain that temperatures are measurably cooler, the air feels lighter, and the infamous southern heat becomes something you can actually tolerate.
I would fact check that. I'm pretty sure. I know people in Georgia, and I'm pretty sure they say it's pretty bloody sweltering hot. Maybe? I don't know.
The air feels lighter.
Okay.
And the infamous southern heat becomes something you can actually tolerate. The city earned its elevation by sitting directly on the edge of the Piedmont Plateau, where the ancient Appalachian foothills begin their long descent toward the sea. This is why Atlanta gets snow in winter, while Savannah gets rain. Why spring arrives with a green explosion of wildflowers instead of just more gray humidity. And why the horizon in every direction looks more like the edge of a highland than the flatlands most people expect from Georgia. Fact 19. The name Atlanta was almost a disaster. When Georgia's state engineer chose the name for the new railroad terminus in 1845, he proposed Atlantica Pacifica, an absurdly ambitious name for a tiny settlement of a few hundred people. Locals immediately shortened it to Atlanta, and the name stuck. But what is astonishing is what that name came to represent. Within a single generation, Atlanta grew from a railroad junction surrounded by pine trees into the commercial and cultural engine of the American South. The city's entire identity is wrapped around that original railroad origin. Every major highway, rail line, and airport connection that flows through Atlanta today is a direct descendant of that decision to build the Western and Atlantic Railroad's southern terminus on this specific ridge in the Georgia Piedmont.
And I think if you ask anybody, Atlanta traffic sucks 100%.
Atlantic Railroad's southern terminus on this specific ridge in the Georgia Piedmont. The city was literally born to connect things. And more than 180 years later, it still does exactly that. Fact 18. Underground Atlanta is a buried city that time tried to erase. After the Civil War, the city rebuilt itself on top of its own ruins. Streets were elevated, bridges were built over intersections, and the original ground floor storefronts found themselves swallowed below the new street level. Fact 17. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is the busiest airport on Earth, and it isn't close. For more than 2 decades, Atlanta's airport has processed more passengers than any other airport in the world. In a typical year, nearly 100 million passengers move through its gates, a number so large it exceeds the entire population of Germany. The airport operates its own underground train system, its own zip code, and contains more restaurants and retail shops than many American malls. What makes this remarkable is the geography. Atlanta sits within a 2-hour flight of 80% of the entire population of the United States. The city is essentially the pivot point of American air travel, the place everything passes through on its way to everywhere else. If you have ever flown across the American South and wondered why you had a layover in Atlanta, now you know. There is no avoiding it. The whole continent bends toward Georgia. Fact 16. Piedmont Park is Atlanta's answer to Central Park, but with a wilder edge. Covering more than 180 acres in the heart of the city, Piedmont Park gives Atlanta its green lungs. But unlike manicured urban parks elsewhere, Piedmont exists at the intersection of formal landscape design and genuine wilderness. The park sits on land that once hosted the 1895 Cotton States Exposition, an event that drew nearly 800,000 visitors and announced Atlanta's rebirth to the world after the destruction of the Civil War. Today, the same ground hosts one of the country's most beloved green spaces, wrapped around Lake Claramere, stitched into the city's fabric by the Atlanta Beltline Trail, and surrounded on every side by neighborhoods that would not exist without it. On a spring weekend, Piedmont Park becomes one of the most diverse public squares in America, a place where the entire city exhales together. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe and leave a like to keep discovering the incredible hidden stories of America's most fascinating cities. Fact 15. Atlanta is a city literally growing inside a forest. This is not a metaphor. The city's tree canopy is so dense and so extensive that Atlanta is officially categorized as one of the most heavily forested urban areas in the entire world. More than 47% of the city's surface is covered by tree canopy.
Wow, that is excellent. That is excellent. Having a big city, but also keeping that green spaces, that is excellent. Okay,
world.
I like it.
More than 47% of the city's surface is covered by tree canopy, a figure that rivals the forest coverage of many rural counties. This is because Atlanta was built inside the southern Appalachian forest, not by clearing it, but by threading roads and buildings between the pines and oaks and tulip poplars that were already there. The result is a city where you can be standing in a parking lot in Buckhead and feel like the woods are only 1 block away, because they usually are. Local urban ecologists call it the city in a forest, and from above, Atlanta looks less like a metropolis than like a green sea with buildings poking through it. Fact 14. The Georgia Aquarium is the largest aquarium in the Western Hemisphere. When it opened in 2005, it was the largest aquarium anywhere on Earth, and it remains the biggest in the entire Western Hemisphere. It holds more than 10 million gallons of fresh and marine water, enough to fill 15 Olympic swimming pools. It is home to whale sharks, the largest fish species on the planet, animals so enormous that the aquarium had to engineer tanks specifically to their scale. 4 whale sharks swim in a tank so vast that scuba divers can explore it freely alongside them. What makes visiting the Georgia Aquarium genuinely extraordinary is the sensation of scale. The Ocean Voyager Gallery has an acrylic viewing window so large that when you stand in front of it, the ocean doesn't feel like something behind glass. It feels like the glass is simply the boundary between 2 worlds, and you are standing at the edge of both of them. Fact 13.
Dang.
Atlanta was burned to the ground and rebuilt itself into the capital of the South in less than 20 years. When General William Tecumseh Sherman captured Atlanta in 1864, he ordered the military infrastructure of the city destroyed. The fire that followed consumed roughly 40% of the city's buildings. What was left was rubble, chimneys standing in fields of ash, and a population that had scattered in every direction. Yet by 1880, Atlanta had not just recovered, it had surpassed its pre-war population, rebuilt its commercial center, and was already positioning itself as the economic engine of the post-war South. By 1900, it had established itself as the regional capital in everything from banking to journalism to education. The speed of that resurrection remains one of the most remarkable stories of urban rebuilding in American history.
You think about it, 20 years is not very long to kind of rebuild a whole city, bring back that population, infrastructure, and everything else. That's not very long at all. Not very long at all.
Resurrection remains one of the most remarkable stories of urban rebuilding in American history. A city that turned destruction into a starting gun. Fact 12. Coca-Cola was born here, and Atlanta never lets you forget it. On May 8th, 1886, a pharmacist named John Stith Pemberton stirred together a caramel-colored syrup in a brass kettle in his Peachtree Street pharmacy, mixed it with carbonated water, and created the most consumed beverage in the history of human civilization. Today, Coca-Cola products are drunk more than 2 billion times every single day in over 200 countries. The World of Coca-Cola
Damn.
Museum in downtown Atlanta is one of the city's most visited attractions, a place where you can taste over 100 different Coca-Cola products from around the world, including flavors that are so aggressively unusual, they have become their own kind of legend. That the most globally recognized commercial product on Earth originated in a single pharmacy on a single afternoon in downtown Atlanta is a fact that still feels improbable no matter how many times you hear it. Fact 11. Martin Luther King Jr. was born here, and Atlanta preserved nearly every piece of his world. The sweet Auburn neighborhood on Auburn Avenue is one of the most historically significant streets in American history. Within a few city blocks, you can stand at the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr., walk through the Ebenezer Baptist Church where he and his father both preached, and visit his grave alongside his wife, Coretta Scott King. The Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Site encompasses 15 acres of preserved history in a neighborhood that has been continuously inhabited since the 19th century. But what makes visiting this place genuinely moving is not the monuments or the museums. It is the scale of ordinariness. The house where King was born is a modest Victorian on a tree-lined street. It is a reminder that the people who change history usually start in places that look exactly like everywhere else. Fact 10. Stone Mountain is one of the geological wonders of the American East, and it rises straight out of the suburbs. The exposed granite dome of Stone Mountain is the largest single piece of exposed granite on the surface of the Earth. It rises 825 feet above the surrounding Georgia Piedmont and spans more than 5 miles at its base. An enormous bare rock dome that erupted through the Earth's surface roughly 300 million years ago and has been slowly exposed by erosion ever since. The granite is so hard and so resistant to weathering that while everything around it eroded away over geological time, Stone Mountain just sat there, becoming more exposed with every passing millennium. On a clear day, from the summit of the mountain, you can see the Atlanta skyline, 20 miles to the west, the Blue Ridge Mountains to the north, and a panorama of Georgia Piedmont in every other direction that extends almost beyond comprehension.
So they've got a cable car all the way to the top of it. Wow, okay.
And a panorama of Georgia Piedmont in every other direction that extends almost beyond comprehension. Fact 9. The Atlanta Beltline is one of the most ambitious urban transformation projects in American history, and it is still being built. The concept started as a graduate school thesis in 1999. A student named Ryan Gravel proposed converting the 22-mile loop of abandoned railroad corridors surrounding Atlanta's urban core into a connected trail system, streetcar network, and greenway linking 45 neighborhoods. City officials largely ignored it for years. Then it became a movement. Today, large sections of the Beltline are open as paved trails for walking, running, and cycling, lined with public art installations that change regularly, connecting neighborhoods that had been physically separated by the railroad corridors for over a century. On any given weekend, the Beltline trails pulse with thousands of people, pop-up markets, food trucks, live musicians, and the unmistakable energy of a city that has decided to reinvent its relationship with its own geography. Fact 8. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the agency responsible for protecting the health of the entire United States, is headquartered in Atlanta. The CDC,
if you ever watched The Walking Dead, you would know that for sure.
Responsible for protecting the health of the entire United States is headquartered in Atlanta. The CDC's campus in DeKalb County is the nerve center of American public health, the place where epidemiologists track disease outbreaks, and where pandemic response protocols are developed, and where laboratory work on the world's most dangerous pathogens takes place in secure biocontainment facilities. But beyond its institutional significance, the CDC's presence makes Atlanta something genuinely rare. The city hosts one of the highest concentrations of public health researchers, epidemiologists, and medical scientists of any metropolitan area in the world. Emory University, also located in Atlanta, works in direct partnership with the CDC and operates one of only 2 laboratories in the United States authorized to handle variola, the virus that causes smallpox. Atlanta is quietly one of the most important scientific cities in the world. Atlanta was a southern city still working to define its place on the global stage. What followed was an 85-day transformation. More than 10,000 athletes from 197 nations competed across Atlanta and surrounding Georgia venues. Centennial Olympic Park, built specifically for the Games, became the city's new public gathering place and remains one of the most visited outdoor spaces in Atlanta today. The city that hosted those Games bears the fingerprints of the Olympics in nearly every major public space it has built since. Fact 6. Atlanta has more Fortune 500 companies than almost anywhere in America. Headquartered within the Atlanta metro area are global companies including Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, Home Depot,
Oh,
United Parcel Service, and CNN, among dozens of
dang.
others.
Okay.
This concentration of corporate headquarters is not accidental. It is
I
the
see. I seen it also had the College Football Hall of Fame as well too. Didn't know it was in Atlanta either. Okay.
dozens of others. This concentration of corporate headquarters is not accidental. It is the direct result of Atlanta's position as the economic and logistical hub of the southeastern United States, amplified by Hartsfield-Jackson's unmatched connectivity and a business-friendly culture that has been deliberately cultivated for more than a century. The result is a city where the global economy flows through the same streets where you stop for brunch on a Sunday morning. Walking through Midtown Atlanta, you are surrounded by the headquarters of companies whose products are in virtually every home on Earth. It is an economic density that the city's modest skyline does not even begin to suggest. Fact 5. Chattahoochee National Recreation Area is a wild river canyon hiding inside a major metropolitan area. The Chattahoochee River carves a series of narrow gorges and rapids through the northern suburbs of Atlanta, and the 48-mile stretch protected by the National Recreation Area is one of the most surprising pieces of wilderness accessible from any American city of Atlanta's size. Gold panning is still legal along sections of the river because the Chattahoochee drainage sits at the southern edge of the Appalachian Gold Belt, the same geological formation that sparked the Georgia Gold Rush of 1828, nearly 2 decades before the more famous California Rush. Tubing the Chattahoochee on a summer afternoon, watching herons lift from the rocks and osprey circle overhead, with the city's skyline completely hidden behind the forested ridges, is one of those experiences that feels impossible until it is happening to you. Fact 4. Atlanta's food scene is quietly one of the most diverse and extraordinary in the United States. The city's rapid population growth has brought communities from every corner of the world, and the culinary result is a metropolitan food culture of startling range.
What is the population of Atlanta? I don't think he said yet. So I'm assuming it's obviously a lot of people. So a lot of people, a lot of diversity, a lot of different foods. Okay, I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
And the culinary result is a metropolitan food culture of startling range. Buford Highway, a single commercial corridor running north from the city into DeKalb County, is often cited by culinary experts as one of the most culinarily diverse streets in America, with authentic restaurants representing dozens of cultures, including Vietnamese, Korean, Ethiopian, Guatemalan, Chinese, and Mexican communities, often within a single half-mile stretch. The soul food tradition rooted in Atlanta's African-American history runs alongside this international tapestry, giving the city a food identity that is simultaneously deeply Southern and genuinely global. James Beard Award-winning chefs have planted roots here, and the city's restaurant scene has grown sophisticated enough to be taken seriously in the same conversations as New York and Chicago. Fact 3. The National Center for Civil and Human Rights gives Atlanta an experience that exists nowhere else on Earth. Opened in 2014 and located steps from the World of Coca-Cola and Centennial Olympic Park, the National Center for Civil and Human Rights houses the personal papers of Martin Luther King Jr. alongside a globally curated collection of human rights artifacts from movements across the planet. But what makes the museum genuinely unforgettable is a single exhibit. Visitors can sit at a lunch counter recreated from the Woolworth sit-ins of the 1960s, place their hands on the counter surface, close their eyes, and listen to a simulation of what protesters endured during those demonstrations. People emerge from that exhibit changed in a way that photographs in a gallery simply cannot achieve. Atlanta is the only city in the world where the birthplace of the American Civil Rights Movement and its most comprehensive museum are both within walking distance of where you park your car. Fact 2. Atlanta's theater and art scene is large enough to make New Yorkers slightly uncomfortable. The city is the third largest theater market in the United States, behind only New York and Chicago, and has been for decades. The Fox Theater alone, a 1929 Moorish Egyptian fantasy of a building with a ceiling painted to look like an open night sky, and stars that actually twinkle, hosts more than 150 productions a year and regularly sells out performances that Broadway companies use as pre-New York testing grounds. The High Museum of Art houses a permanent collection that rivals those of institutions in cities 3 times Atlanta's size. The Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, the Alliance Theater, the Woodruff Arts Center, and a thriving independent music scene that has launched artists from Outkast to Lil Jon to 21 Savage have made Atlanta one of the defining cultural production cities of modern American life. The creativity here does not feel like a local affair. It feels like something the rest of the world is actively paying attention to. Fact 1. Atlanta is the city that refuses to be defined by what it was, and that refusal is its greatest attraction. No other American city of comparable size has been destroyed and rebuilt, erased and reimagined as many times as Atlanta has. The Civil War burned it. The Civil Rights Movement transformed it. The Olympics introduced it to the world. The Beltline is reinventing its neighborhoods in real time. The city's motto, Resurgence, meaning rising again, appears on the official seal alongside a phoenix rising from flames, and it is not just a historical reference. It is the operating philosophy of a city that has turned reinvention into an art form. Visitors come expecting Southern charm and sprawling highways, and leave having experienced a city that is simultaneously older than most of its residents realize and newer than any of its history suggests. Atlanta does not wait for you to understand it. It simply keeps becoming something more interesting while you are still catching up. Now that you know these 20 incredible facts about Atlanta, tell us which one surprised you most.
So, interesting video. As I said, these videos, they could be right, they could be wrong. Sometimes, it is what it is. So let me know down in the comment section if they got anything wrong. But I'm pretty sure Atlanta is kind of on par with us here, very humid and hot in the summer. I've never once heard anybody say, oh yeah, Atlanta's nice and pleasant in the summer. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And then obviously the traffic as well, like any big city, they're going to have traffic issues. So, but when I did my Georgia video, the thing that struck me when they, touched on Atlanta was the trees. And I'm glad they brought it up in this one as well too, the city built within the forest. So, but I love that. I love that, the looking out and having the trees there, the green spaces and everything else obviously improves, your mood and the air that you breathe, everything. So, but interesting that they were saying there about that 20-year gap where, burnt down during the Civil War, and then 20 years, they're building this back, bigger and better than it was before by all accounts, according to this video. But 20 years is not a very long time, to rebuild a whole city. So, but it looks like they're on the right track anyway. And obviously, with Coca-Cola and, big businesses, Delta and everything being there as well. But there was an interesting video about the city of Atlanta. So learned some stuff. That big mountain outside of Atlanta too. That looks. We've seen that they touched on that in the Georgia video with the carving in it as well too. So, but very interesting video. So let me know in the comment section if you know how many people live in Atlanta. Let me know as well down there as well too. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Make sure you stay safe, and I'll definitely see you in the next reaction video. Oh, you're still here? You want more content? Why don't you check out my Patreon down here? You'll get plenty more content and some exclusive videos over there too. If not, why not check out this one over here?